Have you ever wondered what those rows of unusual looking vines are that grow on some Canyon County farms? If you're a beer drinker, you might know they're hops, and they supply a growing industry of microbreweries in Idaho. Today on You Can Grow It, Garden Master Jim Duthie takes us on a tour of a hops processing plant and shows us how these unusual plants are grown and harvested and why they thrive here in southwest Idaho.
You've probably driven past them and wondered what these strange vines are. These are hops, and hops is a big industry in southwest Idaho. Hops fields are a unique and interesting sight in Idaho's farm country with long, straight corridors between high walls of leafy aromatic vines. Hops are the flowers of the hops plant and are used primarily as a flavoring and stability agent in beer. The hops plants are perennial, which means that they grow back each spring. The fields remain planted for 5 to 8 years, depending on the need for that particular hops variety in the marketplace. As the shoots emerge, they're trained to grow up strings to an overhead trellis. The vines, better known as bines, can grow to well over 20 feet tall. The plants produce 1 to 2 inch long flowers that resemble small pine cones. Each of the scales, or petals, of the flower produces a yellow powder that contains the acids and oils that give the hops their character and flavor. So why are there so many hops farms in southwest Idaho? It has a lot to do with being halfway between the equator and the North Pole.
The reason hops thrive here, hops are a day-length sensitive crop. They need to be close to the 45th latitude. The lower you get, there's too much day length and the hops will not flower. So they need to have the right day length to flower.
The climate here also plays an important role in growing hops.
And they got to have a certain amount of freeze nights in the wintertime to be able to reactivate in the spring. So this area allows for that. And this area too is, the storms aren't as bad like in the Midwest on that latitude, and the climate with the temperatures and the seasons work well for that.
The main hops growing area here in southwest Idaho is in Canyon County, particularly around Parma, Notice, Wilder, and Greenleaf. The neighboring states actually have larger hops industries.
Oh, the main competitors would be Washington and Oregon. There's roughly 6,000 acres in Idaho. There's roughly 40,000 acres in Washington. So, and I think around 7,500 acres in Oregon. So we're third.
Hops growing in Idaho began in 1934, when some Canyon County farmers first installed trellises and started growing the first plants. Brock's grandfather, Ray, started growing hops in 1948.
Our hops go all over the world. They go to brokers, and then they're distributed everywhere.
So how do the hops get from the fields to the breweries, who use them to make beer? Late summer is harvest time for hops. The vines are pulled down and transported on these trucks to the separation shed where the hops flowers are removed. The vines are hung upside down on conveyors that take them to the strippers to separate the hops from the vines and leaves. They're hung upside down because the hops flowers are more numerous at the tops of the vines. The flowers go through a series of steps to clean the hops, removing any unwanted plant material and other debris. Then the discarded leaves and vines are chopped up and set aside to be used for cattle feed. Next, the hops are transported by conveyor to a drying facility. They come in with a moisture content of about 75%. They're dumped into huge drying vats about 3 to 4 feet deep, and each drying vat holds about 2 acres worth of hops. Warm air at about 135 degrees is forced up through the floor of the vat, where the hops are dried to about 9.5% moisture content, a process that takes about 8 to 10 hours.
What does it smell like?
It smells like an IPA.
Doesn't it smell
Yeah,
like
it smells
beer?
great.
Exactly.
From here, the dried hops are taken to the packing shed, where a slot in the floor pushes air up through the pile of dried hops to cool them back down. Then they're scooped into a machine that compresses them into 200-pound bales, which are wrapped and ready for shipping. And who buys these Idaho-grown hops?
A lot of microbreweries, a lot of big breweries.
Including a growing microbrewery industry here in Idaho, as well as throughout the world. For Idaho's News Channel 7, I'm Jim Duthie.
Oh, that was interesting. Now, there are 4 main varieties of hops grown in southern Idaho: Galena, Nugget, Chinook, and Zeus. And each one has been developed for the distinctive flavors that they give beer. Hops are also used in herbal medicine as a treatment for anxiety and insomnia. A pillow filled with hops is supposed to be a remedy for sleeplessness. Might have to try that. Hops can also be eaten. The young shoots of the vines are edible and can be cooked similar to asparagus.